Good morning, students. I hope you are all doing well. In today's lesson video, we are going to continue with the book Around the World in 80 Days. We are on pages 38 and 39 for this. But before we get started, I want to remind you of a few things. The two guys that are traveling around the world, their last names are Fogg and Passepartout. And remember, there is a detective. His name is Fix. And Detective Fix thinks that Fogg robbed the bank. So if you remember, Detective Fix is following Fogg and Passepartout because he thinks Fogg robbed the bank. And the last time that we read this, the last section, they were traveling in India, and Detective Fix was waiting on a warrant to arrest him. So in today's video, sorry about that, we will listen to episode 3. So listen and read in your book.
Lesson E, pages 38 and 39. 2. Listen and read the story.
Around the World in 80 Days, Episode 3. Detective Fix was very happy when he heard about Passepartout's mistake at the temple. If the Indian police arrested him for breaking the law, it would cause a delay and give time for the arrest warrant to arrive from London. Fix stayed in Bombay to organize things with the priests. The train to Calcutta was traveling across the beautiful Indian countryside when it suddenly stopped. Everyone was told to get off. When they did, they discovered that they were at the end of the train tracks. "What's happening?" said the passengers. "The newspapers said the track was finished." "They were wrong," said the conductor. "You have to find your own transportation from here to Allahabad. The track begins again there." Fogg was calm when he heard the news. "I knew we would have a problem somewhere. Today is October 22nd. The boat to Hong Kong leaves Calcutta on October 25th. We'll be there in time." However, they couldn't find a vehicle. "We'll walk," said Fogg. Passepartout was only wearing the sandals he had bought to replace his shoes. "I saw an elephant," he said. "Perhaps we can rent it." Fogg bought the elephant for £2,000. They hired a young man to be their guide, bought supplies, climbed on the elephant, and set off. As they went through a forest the next day, the travelers saw a most extraordinary ceremony. An old Rajah had died, and tradition demanded that his wife, a young woman, had to be burned with her husband's body. Fogg and Passepartout were shocked. They decided to rescue the woman. But she was well guarded, and they could not get near her. Then Passepartout thought of a plan. The guards put the woman, who had fainted, on the wood next to the dead body. The fire was lit, and the air filled with smoke. Suddenly, the dead Rajah stood, picked up his wife, and carried her away from the fire. Everyone screamed and fell to the ground. The Rajah walked over to Fogg and said, "Let's leave quickly." It was Passepartout. They jumped on the elephant and escaped just in time. The crowd was very angry when they realized it was a trick. Fogg knew that the young woman, whose name was Aouda, was in great danger if she stayed in India. When they arrived in Allahabad, Fogg sent Passepartout to buy some European clothes for Aouda. Then they said goodbye to their guide, and Fogg gave him the elephant. When they were safely on the train, Aouda was able to thank them. "You have saved my life," she said. "I thank you from the bottom of my heart." "You must leave the country until the danger is past," said Fogg. "You can travel with us from Calcutta to Hong Kong." "I have a cousin who lives in Hong Kong," said Aouda. "I can stay with him."
All right, that is a lot of excitement. They ran out of train track. They saved the lady's life. So Fogg and Passepartout are moving along in their adventure. So exercise 3 says we need to put these events in order. So I'm going to read them to you and then we'll put them in order. This one is Passepartout rescues Aouda from the fire. The next one, the train tracks stop and Fogg buys an elephant. The next one, Aouda decides to go to Hong Kong with Fogg and Passepartout. Fix stays in Bombay to arrange for Passepartout's arrest. Fogg and Passepartout see a funeral ceremony. Fogg and Passepartout help the young woman and buy her new clothes. All right, so which one of these do you think happened first? So if we go back up to the story, we see that Detective Fix was in Bombay. That's the very first thing that happened. And he was trying to organize things with the priest for a warrant to arrest Passepartout. So let's see here. Which one of these is that? Fix stays in Bombay to arrange for Passepartout's arrest. That's number 1. All right. So what is the next one? Well, it's not going to Hong Kong. That was the last thing that happened. And it's not the funeral ceremony because there's things that happened. So it must be this one. Remember, the train tracks stopped and Fogg bought an elephant. So what do you think happened after that? Aouda decides to go to Hong Kong? No. They rescue her from the fire? Maybe, but what happened before this? They saw a funeral ceremony. So this is number 3. All right. And at that funeral ceremony, what did they do? Passepartout rescued Aouda from the fire. So that's number 4. And then they helped her by buying new clothes. They bought new clothes. They bought European clothes specifically so that they could kind of hide who she was so she wouldn't get in trouble. And then she decided to go to Hong Kong because she has a cousin there. So that is the last one, number 6. So here's the correct order: 4, 2, 6, 1, 3, 5. So practice reading these in order. But for now, we're going to go to exercise 4. So I'm going to read you this question and then I want you to repeat it. Why does Fix want the Indian police to arrest Passepartout? Why does Fix want the Indian police to arrest Passepartout? All right, if you don't know, let's go back to the story and try to find it. All right, so Fix was happy when he heard about the mistake. If the Indian police arrested him for breaking the law, it would cause a delay and give time for the arrest warrant to arrive from London. So here is the answer. your answer for that one is right there. So read this in your book. I'm going to move back to the question. All right, so let's answer this together. So it would cause a delay and give time for the arrest warrant from London to arrive. There you go. All right, let's fix this one. Sorry. So there is your answer. And number 2, why did Fogg and Passepartout help the woman? Why did they help her? All right. So here is where they see the funeral ceremony, and they see that she was going to be burned with her husband's body, and they were shocked, so they decided to rescue her. So why did Fogg and Passepartout help the woman? All right, so we're going to say they is Fogg and Passepartout helped the woman because she was going to be burned with her husband's body. There you go. So that's what you do. If you're reading a question and you're confused and don't remember it, always go back to the reading and try to find where it was in the reading, and your answers will always be there. So that's it for this video. I hope you are enjoying this story. And in the next video, we will work on page 40.